started. So now with rising, is this thing too loud? Rising costs and inflation, a lot of consumers are changing their subscriptions, and also Disney Plus and Netflix. They're also starting to allow ads on there. So we decided to do this panel for AVOD. So for my panelists, if each of you can introduce yourselves. So Courtney, we'll start with you.
Hi, I'm Courtney McCormick. I'm at SafeLight. We are the vehicle glass experts over at SafeLight. You may know us for our jingle of SafeLight Repair, SafeLight Replace. So I apologize for singing. But yeah, I'm the senior video manager over there. Thank you for having me.
Good morning. I am Erlyn Portillo. I am a group media director at Carlberg Branding and Advertising. It is one of the oldest ad agencies in Houston. So nice to see everyone.
Hi, Gina Wheelahan. I'm from Butler Till, an independent women and employee agency out of Rochester, New York. I am responsible for holistic video strategy at the agency and oversee a team of video specialists.
Great, so let's do a little overview. If each of you can let me know how you are navigating this competitive landscape. I already mentioned Netflix and Disney Plus, but everything is so fragmented nowadays, so just let us know how you're each navigating this. So Courtney, let's start with you.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think it's great that the landscape is getting more competitive, because at the end of the day, hopefully that results in lower rates for all of us that are buying the media inventory. But how we're navigating it, you just really have to get down to the basics. We lead with an audience-first approach. We start there. You can go ahead and look at the platforms that are offered, make sure the scale is there for your particular audience. Coming up with a test and learn plan is really important, because most likely you're not just going to be on one platform. You're going to want to spread your media dollars across a couple, so making sure you have a good test and learn mentality. And then lastly, just making sure the measurement sources are there. So making sure that once you're doing the buy, that you're able to measure your KPIs effectively, so you can start optimizing as you go.
Great, Erlyn?
Yeah, I mean, ditto. I would say, so I'm here to offer the perspective of a small agency. A lot of my clients are local, regional, and we don't really have the budget to kind of compete with like these national advertisers. So I'm really relying on my digital vendors to kind of help me, because I don't have the manpower, I don't have the hours. So I'm really relying on them to not only like help me when I'm looking at my audience, but like help me execute the buy as well. So I would say, like Courtney, looking at the audience, where is our audience consuming media, and then kind of going wherever the audience is, and that's how we kind of do it at Carlberg.
I guess to build off of what these two have shared, it's interesting. I mean, a lot of it's what we've all always been doing, right? Like the way that this environment is now fragmented and evolving, like that's not new to us as media people. That's been happening for years. And so I think some of those same rules apply in how we're navigating this space, right? There's vendor management, ongoing proactive outreach to our partners to understand what's happening, what their offerings are and whatnot. It's keeping a pulse on what's happening in the news and in trends, and making sure that you have solid process in place in order to do test and learn, navigate that and manage the partners accordingly. One thing I think more just like structurally based, at my agency anyways, we did reframe sort of the structure and responsibilities of our team. We are a team of video specialists, but within that team, we have subspecialties. And that's really to ensure, because the ecosystem is so complex, that we're not losing expertise across linear, OTT, streaming, online video, all of those things. So that structure of our team has changed. We have subspecialties across each of the different ways in which you can activate video. Those people also are responsible for managing partners specifically, and so it just holds a different level of responsibility as far as educating our agency, educating our clients.
Great, so it's funny that you mentioned cost before, and a lot of these platforms, like the parent companies, are consolidating, and they're basically taking over. So Gina, when we spoke on the phone, you had an opinion on this. So do you think, I would think that would drive inventory to become more expensive. So if you had any thoughts on that.
I do. I have mixed feelings, I guess, about it, which I'm sure many share in the room. I think there are benefits to the consolidation. We've talked a lot about fragmentation. We've talked a lot about frequency control. If we have less partners to manage, some of that gets a little bit simplified. So I think that there's opportunity there. I think it presents opportunity from an agency side and a brand side to leverage more buying power. If you're spending money with fewer partners, obviously there's more to negotiate based on that. So I think those are positive things to the consolidation. Barbie, to your point, yes, it gives these partners more control. And so I know a lot of folks are already experiencing this. There's less flexibility. They can, in fact, increase our prices because they know that we need them in order to fulfill deliverables for our clients and reach the goals that we're looking to obtain. So I think that some of those things can work against us. Mergers are also messy, and I will not name names up here, but one significant one that happened a few years ago, I mean, they're still working through it, and the service has significantly tanked, and it's unfortunate because it's a great platform, great platforms, I should say. So that part is really difficult to navigate as well.
Great. So, Courtney, you mentioned testing and learning, and you do like an audience first approach. How does your messaging change on where your audience is, like by channel? Do you have any how do you test and learn? Like, do you have any learnings from that?
Yeah, so without getting too far into the weeds, SafeLight has a couple different services. So we have a repair if you have a chip, we have a replacement of your windshield if you have a crack. And many of you may not know, but if you have a car that has advanced safety systems, so the lane assist, you actually have a camera on your windshield as well. So when you get that replacement done, you also need a service done called a recalibration. So the way we're trying to tailor messaging is we know the type of cars out there that need this particular service. And at SafeLight, we really are focused on the customer experience, so making that as positive as possible, because we know when you have vehicle damage, it's not usually the best part of your day. So we want to make sure that once you come to us, you really know what to expect. So if we can serve an ad that shows what that experience is going to look like, really from the start before you're even a customer, that can really help us as you come into the door and become a SafeLight customer. So tailoring the messaging to where we can to help make that SafeLight experience visible to that potential customer that could come visit us.
Great. So let's talk about budget and where your dollars are shifting. A lot of advertisers have shifted from linear to CTV. So if each of you can talk about that, and when did you start doing this? Are you getting the same reach on AVOD as you did in linear? So Erlyn, let's start with you since I'm going to pick on you since I had Gina and Courtney speak.
Yeah, so I definitely started noticing this a few years ago, and with my current agency and our current clients, every single year we're shifting more and more from traditional to digital overall because we are being, more addressable with our dollars. Our overall reach is decreasing, but we're going after the right audience. So in a way, I feel like our buys and our overall goals are improving, but a challenge that I'm dealing with is I come from a creative first agency, so a lot of times I'm dealing with like, let's do outdoor, let's do TV, and I'm like, guys, like that's not where our audience is. Like, yes, we could definitely reach our audience with these channels, but we're gonna have so much waste. Let's use this amazing creative and like let's be strategic about it and approach them in like CTV, OTT, etc. But that's a trend that I just have noticed for the past couple of years, and it's gonna keep just slowly like taking away from traditional and just putting more of it into digital. So
it's like the chicken and the egg question. What comes first, creative or media? Like I feel like that's something that, as media buyers, we want media to come first. You guys want media to come first. You don't want the creative, but then it's like the execution. It's like, sometimes the creative director would argue like, oh, well, it belongs on TikTok or whatever. And
no,
so
literally like
or digital out of home, like you said. So.
Like literally this week, my creative director's like, oh, we have this amazing spot, and you're gonna do these channels. I'm like, wait, like I gotta look into the audience first. Like, do these channels make sense for this client? So yeah,
great. Courtney, you wanna go?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that viewership is changing from linear to digital. So you obviously can't fight that. It's Safelight's been a pretty early adopter to the space as well. So you're following the trends, you're following the audience. Video is important to us. But when you talk about the mass reach, I think which was in that question, linear TV is still kind of giving us that one-to-many exposure, and digital is obviously the one-to-one. So to get the mass reach that we do need, we still use TV for that specifically. And how we kind of look at it is we kind of start with our TV buy, and we'll look at the point of diminishing returns and where that curve is. And we start there, and then we can start translating what the budget goes to the incremental reach that we can gain on the digital platforms.
Okay, Gina?
Yeah, so I would say 2017 is probably when I started to really see a significant shift. Something I should have mentioned in my introduction, so I primarily am focused on pharma business. So as probably all of you have been exposed to many pharma ads, they love television. So the shift that we've seen specifically in the pharma category has been, I would say, slower than maybe we've seen in other categories. Television, linear TV has just historically been a significant contributor to pharma brands' success. And so to be able to just significantly pivot away from it, for one, it doesn't make sense, and second, the clients aren't comfortable with it. We very much have had to approach it as test mentality. Give us a fraction of your budget for these reasons. Your audience is here, this is where things are trending, all of those things to build confidence for them that they should be shifting. And as we started to gain performance and we were able to say to them, hey, look, we're reaching a qualified audience at a lower cost per, and they're driving stronger, KPIs, we were able to be able to continuously pivot. So we're continuing to work on that. And then the last thing, just building off of what y'all have said, the reach isn't the same, but it's because we're buying it different, right? We're not buying streaming and online video to reach the masses. We're buying it to reach the right people. And so our qualified reach has improved, definitely. But overarching reach, certainly, linear is still the way to go to get the masses. It's just the level of waste that you're going to be comfortable with.
So since there's so many options, like what makes a platform a standout for you? Do you look at platform versus audience? I know sometimes I think some vendors will let you select the audience and automatically it selects a platform for you. But do you care about platform? Is there a preference you guys have? Courtney, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think looking at the content, which is on the platform, so just the quality of the content, then also being cognizant of the ad loads as well, just to make sure that you're not getting lost in the clutter if it's a potentially long ad break within that platform. So just looking out for that.
Yeah, so I would say at my previous agency, we had clients with larger budgets, and in that situation, a lot of times we could partner directly with like a Hulu, and just looking at like our MRI Simmons audience research, we know that Hulu had overall a great reach to this audience. So in that situation, we would partner directly with Hulu, but we would also partner with other like programmatic video vendors. Currently, I don't have that luxury, so definitely going with like where the audience is not really looking at specific partners, just looking at that channel and how to proactively reach them. So
this is, I think, one of my favorite parts about like what we get to do with video, because it's kind of at the core of like when we're pitching to our clients why they should have the mix that they have. Content certainly, I think, is a big contributor to that. Exclusivity. Is this partner that I'm working with going to unlock incremental opportunity for, ad placements maybe that I can't get elsewhere? Accessibility. So is there opportunity to establish direct deals and then pump it through our DSP so that we can centralize all of the media efforts and manage it in one place? Again, it helps with frequency control. Data and tech integrations, I think, are significant. Again, being pharma focused, we don't target, when we're running advanced video efforts, we don't target demo. We target people that suffer from conditions. And so if I need to reach somebody who has sickle cell, I need a segment, and I need a partner that can leverage segments that are taking in those qualifiers. And then measurement, again, pharma specific. There are key partners that we work with that can get us very far down funnel to understand like what did our our campaigns drive. And so having integrations with those partners is super critical, because most of our clients we're convincing them based on the outcome of the data the performance that we're going to be able to report on.
Yeah, so for performance, like senior leadership, they always like to ask, did this drive sales? Did this drive, I guess in your case, prescriptions? Are you able to explain this to them? Like I don't know if for your clients you look at prescriptions or Gina, or well, I guess it would be prescriptions because it's pharma. So
Yeah. There's 2 to 3 main players in the pharma space. They specialize on validating qualified audience based on, is this person diagnosed with X condition, and did this person get on script? So through integrations with those partners, we're able to tell of everybody that we reached what percentage of those folks were qualified. That's significant, right? We look at cost per qualified reach to be able to understand which partners are performing better than others. And then further, more and probably most importantly to everybody, is the impact that it had on scripts and how that converts to return on ad spend. And so we're able to look at those key metrics to be able to say, this is where we're seeing success, this is maybe where we're not. And we do it holistically. So yes, my efforts are solely focused on video, but we are doing that across the full media mix. So we're able to make strong cases, I think, especially with video in comparison to some of the other channels out there.
great. Erlins, do you look at like the ROAS for your clients as well, for the local ones?
Yeah, I would say currently the primary objective for most of my campaigns are brand awareness. So I am looking into like brand lift studies, but I do work a lot with like the higher education space. And so for those who aren't aware, in Texas, the state funding is changing this year, where before they were looking primarily at enrollment. And now it's changing to, we're not going to fund you based on enrollments, we're going to fund you on graduation rates. So that's very interesting, because as an advertiser, our job is to get like the students to apply, but anything beyond that's really on the university. But for clients like that, like, yes, we are looking at a conversion objective. So as far as ROAS, it's at the end of the day, it's like, did our numbers increase from a year ago? And it all varies. Every client is different, but outside of the higher education clients, like it's like brand awareness, like what KPIs are we looking at? How are we measuring our success compared to the previous year? And I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it's literally every client is like their own. Every client is different.
Yeah. Great. And Courtney?
We are very performance-driven at Safelight, and so, and Lance kind of spoke to this yesterday a bit, but obviously when you use Trade Desk, you can see through the entire funnel, so you can get your ROI. But in addition to that, we like to look at the order IDs that we get on our side and then match it back to what we see coming in from the media spend, and that helps give an ROI based on the job quality that we see coming in. When we have our direct buys that we don't see that full funnel measurement, we use a pixel, so we can start to compare platforms against each other based off response rate, a cost per funnel entry, which obviously will start helping us optimize the buy and creating a better ROI. So we look at it a couple different ways depending on the way that we're purchasing the media.
Great. So I'll ask you all. I'll give you 2 options. What do you see in your crystal ball for the future, or what if you cannot answer? If you cannot, you have no answer for that. Then, what is the biggest lesson you learned in the last 6 months? So, Gina, we'll start with you.
I'm not good with crystal ball predictions. I said this a while ago, there's not a whole lot of meat to it, but I anticipate with how competitive things are, I have to imagine one of the like big legacy broadcasters are going to make something some sort of significant shift. It's not based on a whole lot other than the fact that they're trying to get a hold on their future, like longevity, all of that. So again, not very solid prediction, but I imagine there's going to be something significant. As far as biggest learnings, I think that we're just in this for a while, that things are going to continue to change. And we've talked, there's been a lot of conversations about being agile and pivoting and whatnot. And I think we all have to continue to be comfortable with that. And we have to continue to try to get our clients comfortable with it.
Yeah. Arlen's?
Yeah, I would say, Courtney, you mentioned this earlier about like the pods. I just feel like the pods are going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's going to be like, to the user, it's like, oh my God, why am I watching a 3-minute commercial break? Like, I'm trying to get away from like traditional advertising or traditional TV viewing, but I'm still stuck watching these ads that I really, I can't flip the channel to watch something else while the ads are running. And so in a way, I think we have to be mindful of that, because we always want to be considerate of the viewer and not annoying them and not having that association with our brand. So the pods are going to get bigger because that's where the audience is going to go.
Gosh, a crystal ball. I feel like live sports, the transition over into the digital space on different platforms is definitely going to continue to happen. And then in addition to that, maybe now with linear TV, you can do those skinny bundles, so you can kind of, put together HGTV and whatever other network that you want to do. So I wonder if that's kind of a glimpse into the future, because we're almost back to where we started at the end of the day with all these different platforms. So I do wonder if that's a glimpse.
Great. So we'll open up for questions.
Courtney, sorry, Aaron Brum, Simon Media, we met. Courtney, you mentioned premium content being a differentiator when selecting platforms. How important would you say transparency is at the reporting level, down to even say show level content within platforms is for y'all? Is that something you're receiving, or are you seeing advancements from your platform partners in that type of reporting? Because I feel like from a consumer perspective, they're aligning your brand with whatever show they might be watching, whatever content they might be watching within that platform. They're not aligning your brand, say, with Hulu or Tubi or whatnot. So, are you seeing advancements there?
Well, I can kind of start from the other side, to where we are specific on areas that we don't want to run. So we at least have the comfort level that we're not going to be airing in something that is not brand safe for us. So we kind of start at the bottom. But when it comes to trying to get ourselves into the more premium environment, there are ways now that I know you can buy the premium sports, or kind of push yourself into those zones. But when it comes to the actual show name, down to maybe what you would see on a post log of TV, I have not seen that quite yet. So I do wonder if that's in the future.
If I can just, I know you didn't ask me, but I have strong opinions on transparency. I think, especially just as agencies and on behalf of our brands, like, we have got to raise the standard for what transparency should be with publishers. It's crazy to me that I enter into conversations with publishers and they tell me that their relationships with the supply sources prohibit them from telling me where my clients' ads are running. Like, it's just not acceptable anymore. So that's just a plug for all of us to really push partners on that, because I do think, I haven't seen program level either. I think that probably should be something eventually that we should be looking for, especially because this migration is just going to continue. So why should the expectations change?
Justin Poe, kind of to build off what Aaron said a little bit, is how do you guys feel about premium programming? Like, there's a platform that rhymes with Netflix that, feels that they're the most premium and you should be able to, but that's not really where, that's not the way that this kind of medium is going. It's more about like getting the right audience, right? So how do you kind of balance that? How much do you care about, the premium program that, this is the what everybody can say, I'm on Netflix or whatever, versus reaching the right audience wherever they are.
Yeah, I would say for certain clients, the premium content does matter, especially if that audience is, consuming that content, and they're willing to pay like the higher CPM to be in that type of environment, knowing that in the end you're still going after the right audience, just in a slightly more premium space. But for other clients where it's like, well, that isn't really that important to us, yeah, it wouldn't really matter. But I have a client that's like, I want to be in like the best type of programming, the best type of shows. Like, money is no object.
We've, it's definitely dependent on the client. When we first started talking to our pharma brands about entering into the streaming space, the fastest way to get buy-in was to give them a name they could understand that felt premium. So it was like, this looks and feels like television. We're gonna run you on, let's say, a Hulu. They could wrap their hands around that, right? Because it felt very TV-like. Today, we spend a lot of our time trying to educate our clients in the fact that like, premium's important and it should be part of the mix, but you're trying to reach an audience. You're not trying to target specific networks or programs. And so you need to have a mix of all of it while still being in like a brand safe way, right? And creating some guardrails that help for that. I do think, and I'm hopeful, that we're moving past the days of like where you do have to say, yes, we're aligned with Netflix, yes, we're aligned with Disney Plus, and that they can understand that some of those other apps that have tremendous reach are still great places to be.
I actually, I do have one question, and it's sort of from Stuart from Remax. He had come over to me yesterday and he wanted it really to the group, but you guys seem like the perfect, because you even started going into who's looking for premium, who's, willing to, because inflation, what's going on? People are dealing with all of this, and maybe recession. And so everyone who maybe wouldn't, I remember I was like, no way am I gonna have an ad, and now it's like, well, I guess I could have a couple. And I'm just curious, how your clients are, are they more open to, and you sort of have been alluding to that, but did that come into play where you're sort of thinking that things are different now, consumers are different now, so we need to rethink how we're going to choose our channels and what's working and what's not? And it's for all of you. Maybe Courtney, start with you as the brand.
Yeah, I think obviously everyone has subscription fatigue at this point, just because you're, you have so many different services. So it is something to think about. I just read, I think the average subscription service is like 5 per person. So I would imagine that would continue to go down as well, increasing more out of inventory on the advertising platforms. But yeah, so I guess we'll see. But
Gina, you usually have something to say.
Have established a reputation here. That's great. We are very lucky positioned as far as recessions go, being focused on healthcare. People need prescriptions. People need to be able to treat conditions that they can't do otherwise without a prescription. And so we're lucky in the sense that even when hard times come along, pharma brands still need to advertise. They still need to get the word out because there are people out there that still need to treat their condition. I do think, because there's opportunity to do a mix of premium and then maybe user generated, we're running with YouTube, you're running with social. There's so many different opportunities to make those dollars go farther. So they are absolutely receptive to it and open and understand the value that those different outlets present, and why we have to have creative that can also run in those spaces.
I have one more question that I just thought of now. Are any of you looking at subscriber churn? Because sometimes like a major show will come out on a platform. Everyone will subscribe, and then once they're done watching it, after like 2 days, like they binge watch it, and then they cancel their subscription. So I don't know if any of you guys are looking at that.
I'm not currently looking into that, but I actually did that for The Boys on Amazon Prime. I was like, I kept seeing
Great
posts
show.
about it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have to watch this show. And I'm like, I'm going to get a Amazon Prime subscription so I could watch it. But you do bring up a good point, because I know for like a lot of platforms, there's like you know, that shining star. Like right now, everyone's talking about The Last of Us on HBO, and so it's interesting to see like they probably do have a surge when it comes to subscriptions whenever the show is running, and also it's funny too that it used to be all about binge watching TV shows, but now with all these different platforms, they're doing like one episode a week because like we want you to stay on and keep coming back and like watch all our other content. So that is interesting.
Yeah, it's smart for them to do that actually, because I am the type of consumer to be like, I'm gonna binge watch White Lotus and I'm gonna cancel.
Yeah.
So it's smart of them for them to keep me for like 2 months. So yeah.
I think building off of something I think Courtney said around content, that's an important thing to keep an eye out for. Like streaming platforms, they know that they need to create original content. That's what's going to continue to bring people to them. And I think watching the trend and how they do that, like are they consistently pushing stuff out so that consistently keeps people there and pulls new people in? Keeping a pulse on that sort of strategy that these individual partners have, I think is critical to understand, like, will they be able to sustain? And also just lock in guarantee deals, like, then they have to deliver.
Apple's going to get a surge. Ted Lasso's coming back. I'll be back. All right, I think we're good.
Thanks,
Big
guys.
hand for you guys. Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
everyone.
much.
Thank you.
Courtney, Erlen, and Gina, and Barbie, of course.